we're gonna do. Switched it up. Okay.
We have 6 now.
Yeah, go ahead and keep talking a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to poke around. They can't hear at this point, right?
No, it's on.
Okay.
That's why I'm double checking the sound on the stream.
I got you.
Yeah, we sound good.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Intro music now.
Welcome, people, to Getting Work. Had ourselves a pretty interesting game there last night, Ian.
Yeah, it was. If you were a Bucks fan, it definitely was. If you were a Chiefs fan,
not so much.
Yeah,
not so much.
There's always last year or next year.
Yeah. And I mean, they could always say at least they've been there before, but I think we'll get into it. But man, I think there was one team that was very poised throughout the entire game. A couple minor things aside, and then there was one game that definitely showed their age as far as just not being what I would call ready for going up against someone of like Tom Brady's ilk. And I will say I think there's a lot of things at play there. I think one, it's that Tom Brady aura that he's going to bring to any game he's involved in. A piece of that. But that defense was insane last night. They brought it. I think that I just think that KC never could get on a rhythm. They could never set up the pace to be like their pace, the way they want it. That's my 2 cents. So, what was your take? Can you hear me?
Barely. I think we're gonna have to kill the music right there.
Oh. See, I can't even hear it. That's my fault.
We're still working on that. I liked it.
Oh, we're figuring out the time, and that's actually what I can work on the volume of it too.
Yeah.
I lost it when I lost it. Yeah, I lost it. I killed it when I went to check the audio on the stream itself, and so then it ended up that I didn't turn it back on because I was going to use that and then kind of bring it down a little bit.
No, it's all good. We gotta have some music. I like that intro.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad, So to recap, what I was saying was, in a nutshell, I think Tom Brady, I think his presence was there because you always have to be concerned about any time he's on the field, what he's going to do. But also, I was going to say that defense really brought it.
Yeah.
And KC, it was almost like a downward spiral, especially in that first half, as far as just not being able to put together a decent, rhythm, and letting their nerves or whatever, their frustrations and everything else get in their way. 95 yards lost due to penalties in the first half. That's huge.
Yeah, that's massive.
That's huge in any game, but especially in a football going up against Tom Brady. You just can't do that.
It was nothing going. And maybe it was just the offensive line. The guy that got hurt, I don't remember which tackle it was. I think it's the right tackle. I'll probably switch that around. But they were talking about it affected basically 3 positions on the line. Going in, they did have 2 weeks to get ready for it, but still, backups are backups for a reason. Maybe that sort of affected it, but like we were talking about it, can you call Kansas City almost a gimmicky offense? Because if you look at them on paper and take the fantasy football stuff out for me, if you just look at them the way teams are normally constructed, especially high-powered teams, high-powered offenses, things like that, usually have that multiple wide receiver, or at least that big dominant wide receiver, where that, the gravity of him moving around on the field sort of molds the defense and moves it around. They don't have that. They've got a fast receiver. They've got everybody's fast. Everybody, that's their thing. But there's no one that can pull gravity. Tyreek Hill he pulls it. He stretches the field. But he's just not that big. You know what? I'm 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", something like that. I'm just going to go up and you just throw it to me. You throw it to me as many times early and often. Sort of like they do with Gronk, as Brady does with Gronk. When he's in trouble, he's like, oh, there you are. Let me throw it there. They don't have that guy. They have running backs that are good, but not... It's all Mahomes. Like, it's him all day, every day. Yeah. Him dropping back. But if you watch, there wasn't an offense being run. It was Mahomes drop back and run around for a while. There was no clear, okay, we're going here, we're going there. It was just jog around for a little bit, let's see what happens. Like you used to do on Tecmo Bowl, that was...
Oh, right.
You drop back and just keep dropping, and then fling it. Oh, somebody's open. There you go. I don't know. That I hate to say it's not a gimmicky offense, but that's the
my kind of
overreaction. But it's just weird.
But my kind of only thing I was going to ask there was maybe they're kind of maybe as gimmicky of an offense as say like Brett Favre's. Mahomes has got that sharpshooter, gunslinger mentality. Mm-hmm. And he can start if he gets that rhythm going, then he's dangerous. And right up on the screen, I've got the offensive rankings squared up. They were number 1.
Oh yeah,
they were number 1 in yards, number 1 in pass yards, number 3 in pass attempts, number 2 in pass completions, and number 3 in pass TDs. Now their rushing is where they start to fall off already, and then they're going up against. So I have the other side of it. They have in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their number 1 is also that rush defense. So, they being Kansas City weren't likely to be able to pull off much from the rushing standpoint.
No.
But I will say, given the fact that I did pick Tampa Bay, where I was probably the most nervous, and I'd say it was probably in the first quarter, when Mahomes would run the ball a little bit.
That's because
more.
after the first quarter, they were up by like double digits.
Well, yeah.
Tampa was rolling them after that.
Pretty much.
It was like
when they and he was effectively running it.
Yeah.
And so that was what I was like, okay, if they start mixing this in a little bit and then get some of that passing game, which we know is dangerous, rolling as well, and he starts doing more of that, that was going to be probably this, like the one area where I was thinking, they might actually be able to make something happen. They weren't going to win on Mahomes' feet all game, but you start him getting that, you start doing that, and then you start getting the defense nervous a little bit. Then you can kind of start to extend plays out and then start to mix it up a little bit more. Then, yeah, but I think the real trick is that it was outside of Brady running, because Brady's you're not going to see Brady run, especially not at 43. But
right.
Otherwise, it was interesting because they mixed it up on a lot of their drives where they were able to get into the touchdown or at least get dangerously close was set up a play action pass. They set up the running play action pass, or they would go and start with a some decent yardage on the throw, and then turn around and start killing them with screens. And they were just doing a little bit of everything on all of those drives, and I think it made it a much more effective way for them to go up against a Kansas City defense, which isn't horrible. But they're in the top 10, but they're number 10.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And they just have little bits and pieces here that are keeping them in that spot, mostly off of interceptions. They're pretty high ranked in getting interceptions. They didn't get any last night.
No. No, not at all.
And I think that, you're looking at it here, it's kind of funny. You kind of look at this. It's basically outside of some interesting areas. You kind of look at this and it's like, okay, why is this ranked 10th? Even.
Right.
What makes these numbers ranked? It's like, oh, good grief. Everyone else here really starts to fall off, because, you have a Tampa Bay defense who does at least in terms of that rushing defense. They're ranked. That's their bread and butter. Not to say that they don't have decent pass rushing and things like that. They do. They're fourth in sacks, seventh in interceptions, so not that far off from Kansas City there.
Right.
They've got just enough, obviously, to really put in that front line. Me, what I'm watching. If the camera gives me a view of it, exactly where my eyes are glued, and it's right at that line of scrimmage. And
sure,
they were just causing problems. But yeah, I don't know if you have any other little tidbits, because I definitely have some key points I want to go into here with this.
Yeah, no, honestly, I was going to say, I always give battle your discretion as far as your expertise when it comes to football, for sure. That's from the fan perspective. I always laughed at Tampa. I looked at them and I kind of said that would be the way I built my team. They're built. There's star power but quite frankly, their star power is kind of old.
Yeah.
Not kinda. Their star power is a whole lot old. Even if you take Brady out, their star power is a little older. You got Antonio Brown but they were stars for a reason. So even Brown with his head case self, um, I just need you for one. Can you win me a game? I don't need you to win me 16 games. I need you to win me a game. Stars tend to show up when those lights are bright. And guys like JPP, I mean JPP's been around forever.
Oh yeah.
He beat Brady in the Super Bowl. So with the Giants back. So he's there. Gronk is the oldest. Is he 30? I don't know if he's 30 yet. He started the season wrestling. So let's kind of put that in perspective. He was retired. He was very retired. But but they had that star power, but it was still all about that. It was about that running game, play action, and the defense that could pass rush. That's just it. It's just the formula for a win. If you can get that running game where I can start pounding on you, play action with threats at wide receiver, and not just play action and you've got a whole bunch of bums at wide receiver. No one's going to go for it. But you have, Mike Evans. Mike Evans was an afterthought, and Mike Evans is a really good wide receiver.
Oh yeah.
He was an afterthought, and it wasn't because of him. It was just, why throw it when we're just gashing them up the run with the run. So, but then that play action just becomes so deadly. Gronk was open anytime they threw to him. He always looks like he's running in slow motion, and yet no one can catch him. So he was always open. Yeah. They got near the end zone. You knew it was going to Gronk anyhow, but it was really going to him that time. He was open.
Yeah.
So,
they didn't have anybody that could really account for Gronk. Because Gronk's one of those guys, he's, let me see, where is he? He's a solid 6'6". He is 31 years old, but yeah, I get your point about being like the oldest 31-year-old because he would just get hurt so bad in his style of play. He'd get beat up. He'd get
absolutely.
hit. But he's that tight end. That's what he's there for. But also if you look at it, from Tampa Bay's perspective, other than the touchdown passes, which really showcased Gronk, of course. In typical Tom Brady style, he threw it to just about everybody.
Oh yeah, if you were open, you were getting the ball. There was
exactly. It was just more a matter of it was just more of all right, this is what the defense is giving me. Okay, who's open right now? Boom. And their offensive line, he wasn't hurried a lot. No sacks. Just solid, just kind of no nonsense. And you talked about star power, and they definitely have the names, but it wasn't but again, it was a true Tom Brady offense. It wasn't flashy.
Right.
It was just more no nonsense. And I think if there's anything that I kind of keyed in on kind of watching it, and I was watching this page in particular throughout the whole game, just kind of seeing how the stats shifted, because these are just the matchups overall.
Right.
Tampa Bay was consistent, but so here's kind of one of the key thoughts that I really wanted to call forth here too, is being fair to Kansas City. If you look at the matchup stats between the two teams, they really weren't that far off. 22 versus 26 first downs. Passing first downs even at 12. 7 and 8 for rushing first downs. It was like, they just chipped away at him there. First downs from penalties. Then this is where it kind of starts to shift. You got 3 for Kansas City, 6, and also the yardage off of that. Like I said, 95 yards penalty yardage. First half, that's insane. Third down efficiency. Okay, you got 3 and 13, 4 and 12. I'm not going to do the math right off the top, but that's pretty damn close.
Right. Yeah, sure.
First down, fourth down efficiency just kind of depends on how many times you go for it. Tampa Bay went for it once, didn't work out. Total plays. KC had 69 versus 63.
And Tampa was. It was like Tampa stole all the things Kansas City does. It was Tampa that was weirdly a quick striking offense. Even though they were running the ball, they were gouging them for 7-8 yards a carry. The second half was completely that. But when they would throw it, there were they had these big plays. Even if it wasn't a long pass, they would just have big plays. Their scoring was it was pretty quick. All the things that Kansas City does.
Yeah. Kansas City had 10 more yards overall.
Yeah.
But it was, again, very close. Total drives, 11 to 11. Yards per play. Tampa Bay had a 0.3 advantage there. The overall passing yardage, we actually had quite a bit of a bump here, but then when Tampa Bay made up for it with the running.
Mm-hmm.
But not by huge blowaway numbers. Just the story here. You've got the interceptions, although I'd say one near the end, I think was kind of just a foregone conclusion, just because Kansas City was just gunning for it.
You're just flinging
it. Eventually you're going to get one.
Well, he was bouncing passes off of his receiver's face. That's not the quarterback's issue. No. The one that I think of was Mahomes running to his right and being tackled. Like, he was down. I don't know how he even got the ball off, much less through a strike. It just a tight spiral. He almost underhanded the throw from about 25 yards, 25, 30 yards away, and smacked his wide receiver right dead in the face with the ball. Now, granted, there was a defender jumping as well. It was a lot of traffic, but it hit you in the face without anybody hitting it along the way. There were so many of those that if you hit on a couple of them, especially early, I think the game was pretty much out of hand at that point, but especially early, if you can get a couple of those, that's where things could really turn around and change. But yeah, especially with stats like this, I'm surprised that they're as close as they are.
I think where you really start to see it drop off, I think these two lines right here, red zone, made attempts, 3 out of 3 to 5, 0 to 3, and then this penalty line right here.
That was just going to say.
Turnovers. And you know what also, because if you remember.
Wow.
Huh?
I said 120 yards. That's
absolutely. And what it means, though, is that they did settle down in the second half, at least somewhat. Because they had 95 in the first, which means they had, 25, in the second half. So
we're thinking that Brady only had enough money for the first half to pay off the refs. Is that what it's basically saying?
Maybe. But you can't pay off the ref. I don't know. Did he pay off Honey Badger? Because he was a good portion of the and pretty clear.
I will say the one that I said, okay, they're giving them some calls here. There was the one on the sideline. I want to say it was in the first. I think it was in the first half, and it's Mike Evans was going down the sideline, and he's running. He's out in front of his defender. His foot kicks the defender's knee. He's out. He's a good couple steps ahead of the defender. He kicks back and his foot kicks the other guy in the knee or leg, or just enough to throw, you're running full speed. Any little bump kind of throws you off. The defender starts to stumble and falls. If you watch, though, at full speed, honestly, I swore the defender fell and smacked the guy's Mike Evans' foot to knock him down. If you watch it, though, he never touches him. He gets kicked, stumbles, falls on his face. Mike Evans takes a couple of more steps and realizes the ball is overthrown, and then just drops to his knees and slides. I mean, it was clearly not a penalty. Like, it was one of those.
No, and again, I mean, and again, it's kind of one of those deals where I think those kind, especially like full speed, unless it's reviewed, you're going to get those.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there was enough here though where, and also you consider, okay, 11-4 is not good, but it's like also the timing.
It's always about the win.
Of when, and when circumstances and things like that. Because I mean, it wasn't like Tampa Bay didn't have their moments of being chippy. But I will say that that's something where, especially if it's on the offensive side of the ball,
sure,
Tom Brady's going to get in your face quick.
Oh, without question.
And he's like, no, cut that out.
Yeah. We're not doing that. That's not what we're doing.
He has no patience for it. Mm-mm. And so I think that also speaks to the fact that why you're not going to see his teams typically get a lot of penalties. Because he's one of those guys that just and Belichick was that way too in general, I'm sure Brady picked up a lot of that from Belichick. Brady's just one of those dudes where he's like, no.
He's a trash talker. Like, everybody thinks that, Brady missed a clean cut, white dude, he's Mr. Meek and no, he is an arrogant. That is one arrogant joker.
But he's smart about it.
Yeah,
he's not gonna. He'll do it. He'll just be kind of what you're looking at it, but you can kind of see he's gonna say stuff, but he's not gonna be obvious with it.
He will also get away with it too. Quarterbacks get away with it.
Sure.
They get away with it. They do. Because, I mean, I understand it. I'm not even knocking them. If I was a ref, I would be like, okay, you can fire up the defense if you want to. It's your life.
That's your ass. Exactly. That's your ass.
They were headhunting you anyhow, so good luck.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I think quarterbacks get away with it anyhow. I did laugh, and I can't remember. Was it Wingfield in the fourth quarter who popped the peace sign? It means something different, but I forget. It's not just peace. Here it's peace, but other countries I know it means something else. But it's always like good. You see it in anime all the time where they're like, they pop that little peace sign.
So yeah, typically if you do it like this, then it's typically considered good. I think I know like at least in like Great Britain, and maybe just England in particular, if you do it like this, it's almost like doing the middle finger in the U.S.
Okay, so if you do
it has to be like this. My understanding
is the front versus back.
Kind of that. It's almost kind of like that. It's almost the same.
If for some reason someone from another different country other than the U.S. is watching this, we apologize. We're not flipping you off.
No. Yeah. No, it's just that other way. So, but at the same time, still, it's kind of one of those things where if you're just getting in someone's face like that, kind of agitate. And again, it's the timing.
Yeah.
Because you can get away with some of that in certain circumstances, but if it's like one of those things where you're really kind of, it's more like you go out of your way to do it, and that kind of thing.
He waited for that guy to get up off the ground, and he waited for him and was like, "Are you up yet? Can you see me?" But yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, but But I did laugh when he did that, got a penalty, and went to the sideline. That's the type of penalty usually a coach will absolutely lose their mind over because they had completely beaten them. The play was, I think that was a punt. I think they actually punted on that play. I can't remember if that was the play or not. But Kansas City was out. They were heading. Normally, that is a play that a coach is reaming you out on the sideline, just up one side, back down the other. Teammates are yelling at you. Except when you're in the Super Bowl and you're leading, and it's about 5 minutes to go, and you're up by 30 or 25 or whatever it was at that point. I laughed. They cut to him on the sideline, and he was high-fiving his coach. His coach was over there, like, giving him five and stuff. Like, oh, man, you should have done that. Yeah, good job, though. Good job.
Right.
Yeah. So I did laugh at that. That was pretty good.
I think the last stat line I do want to talk about, and we can kind of jump off to do whatever after this, but this right here, this time of possession, 1 point, if you remember, where I was talking about that I thought that Tampa Bay would need to seriously win this. Again, we were kind of going on kind of the assumption of both teams firing on at least as close to full cylinder as you'd expect. And so my thought was that, everything else being equal, Kansas City was going to have a higher octane offense. And so if that was happening, then for Tampa Bay to win it, then I was expecting them to have to win this battle pretty clearly.
Significantly. Yeah, we were talking about it on the other one. It was like, we were thinking like 40, 38, 39, 40 to 20, 21, 22 type of.
Yeah, exactly. But they didn't. I mean, really, it all boils down to this effectively. And I think whatever other little nuances you see, I say like red zone, and this, I think this right here, these penalties, I think this is...
Yeah, the penalties, and when they were all in the first. They killed a couple of drives and kept a couple others going. So it was just one of those. They just came undone. I will say there is a couple things we haven't actually touched on. Do you think home field, first team ever to be at home for the Super Bowl, think home field played any into it at all? I mean, granted, if there was ever a time to have a home field, this was the worst possible Super Bowl to have home field advantage, since no one was there, except for that one guy who was streaking across in the pink bikini or whatever. But aside from him,
really, during COVID, you're hopping out there. Yeah, that guy even have a mask on.
Yeah, and how in the world did he even? The people that were in the stands, this wasn't like normal people that, hey, I can pay for a $10,000 ticket. These were family members. So who was that guy related to? Who was that dude related to?
No idea, but yeah, to your point, I mean, I think that's a fair point to ask. I didn't get a chance to listen to the Talking Heads today, so I don't know if anybody brought that up.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But what I will say is that, it is one of those. You talk about like the lack of fans. Oh, okay, cool. I would say maybe the general impact on travel versus not having to travel. But again, at the end of the day, you play, all year traveling. You play again, kind of regular games. You it's the Super Bowl,
right? Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things where it's just, kind of have to just get over it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Oh
mean?
no,
I'm not
completely.
going to say there
It's just a
wasn't
road game.
anything
I
to
mean,
it, but,
yeah.
I think that, and maybe you could chop off like one of the interceptions or maybe one or two of the penalties or whatever to it. One kind of botched up play, whatever. Okay, fine. But then after a while, you kind of got to get into you're playing the game. And then, like you said, the fact that then at that point, the crowd noise really isn't getting into it at that point. But I mean, especially like, typically at a Super Bowl, that's, you have it on the neutral side. You pretty much have the crowd noise kind of settled out on both ends.
Right.
But with this one, you're not really getting that at all anyway. So it was probably closer to a Super Bowl, And it's just, I don't know, but it is a good point. But my thought process there is that if it did, it says more about Kansas City than it does Tampa Bay.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm with you.
And letting it get to them is kind of on them if that is what did,
Yeah. No, for sure. Absolutely. Well, the other one I was gonna say, this is the completely end of the thing. I was gonna ask about what did you think of the halftime? The weekend.
I had never heard of this cat before.
Really?
I hadn't.
I actually like him. He's probably
no,
one of my favorites.
I thought he did a good job. I like how they had the part where he was and kind of took advantage of the fact that it was a bit of a different, presentation. I've never seen anybody during a Super Bowl like go inside of a thing,
right,
and do the part. My daughter recognized a couple of the songs that he did, so it's like, oh, okay, well at least there's somebody in the house recognizes what he's singing. I think it was like one of the last songs I remember maybe hearing it on the radio when the only time I'm listening to that stuff is when my girls are in the car. Not like I'm out in the car as often now anyway.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So I even have less exposure than I would.
Right.
But yeah, like my daughter caught on to a couple of the songs. She was like, actually piqued her eye, actually looked at what was going on.
Hey,
On the
there's
screen.
something on television happening. Yeah.
Off the
they
phone
finally
and
get
on
that football off of there, and I can hear some music.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it did a pretty good job, but I thought they worked within, because you got to imagine there have to be quite a few limitations that you wouldn't normally have. You'd have to,
right.
And so I think with that, I think they were able to piece together a pretty decent show.
Yeah, I thought it came off actually really good. Like I said, I know who he is. Actually, I really like The Weeknd. And his songs, I thought it was, of all of the artists they could have had, it was hilarious that they had him, who has this thing with a mask, and I can't remember what it is, but he has a thing with a mask and like bandages and stuff like that. Anyhow, without COVID, he had this whole thing going on. So the fact that he was able to work that in with the mask was just too good. It worked out so well because it didn't even take away from, oh yeah, they have to wear masks because there's so many of them all close together. Well,
it's already part of his shtick.
Was part of it. He would have had that anyhow, so it would have been just a thing. But yeah, I thought that was really well done, and yeah, they definitely took advantage of being able to have a whole bunch of what normally would be expensive seats not occupied, and be able to kind of build a different kind of set, that type of thing. So
kind of build it off on one end of the field, not even have to necessarily take over the setup with the middle and everything. I mean, they probably had to do more work to set up the staging and everything after the game was over when they were doing the ceremony. than they had to do as far as like prepping for the halftime show.
Yeah,
they could pretty much get it
one time that the
staged
field
up.
was not torn up at all from halftime. Usually, the halftime show happens and the field gets torn to pieces. I mean, the field, like the actual ground itself, gets torn to pieces. It's just a different field coming in the second half. They were just people walking out there before, and not big, halftime production. So,
right. Yeah, I think all in all, I think for what it was nice, and it still felt like the Super Bowl.
Yes, that's it. Some normal.
It still felt like the Super Bowl. They were still able to put together a game and make it feel like the Super Bowl. If anything else, probably nice because, and I guess, especially like I think it was Super Bowl II, probably even more so than maybe like, slow game or whatever. They might kind of start to pan out to the crowd a little bit more during like, a normal year. But like Super Bowl especially, it's like outside of maybe like a celebrity, they're, to kind of show them out in the stand. They're keeping the camera on the field anyway. So I think that helps. But yeah, I think they did a pretty good job with it. A plus to the production team and everyone had to, pull it all together. I think football especially,
could
be tough.
No, I thought that, it definitely came together, and I like that. Yeah, it was the Super Bowl. Like there was the same normal excitement. Neither of our teams were there, so there's the normal excitement and stuff like that. Still, it was, my son was excited about it. He's getting a little bit more into football now, but it's that type of thing. So that type of you had a party, maybe not as big as you normally, or not maybe, it wasn't as big as like you normally have, but that type of thing. It was still good. It was still exciting. So even with a blowout game, usually blowout games are kind of rough, but it was still a kind of exciting game to watch and stuff like that. So anyhow, so we're gonna take a break, and then when we come back,
I think that's a good idea.
Maybe we'll run the see how, if Roblox was having their Super Bowl.
See, I'm kind of whole confused about this whole like Roblox having football to begin with. Like, what in the heck is this?
Well, that makes two of us. My son, he told me about it. I was like, yeah. One, I wish he had told us last week, but yeah, we'll give it a shot.
We had a good time swashbuckling. We were playing it up there, pirates and stuff. So I think that's one I'd go back to. But
absolutely.
It'd be kind of cool to see what this looks like. But yeah, we'll take a pause for the cause. We'll get things going, and we'll see what the heck this looks like, and can we even make it work first?
Maybe Kansas City might get some touchdowns. We'll see.
Well, I'd be kind of curious to see, do they even have like the actual team names, like if it just be like.
Yeah, I saw it briefly enough to say yes. I saw team names, at least like logos and stuff like that.
Okay.
So if you look at the logo, it actually says Legendary Football, and there are the NFL, the shield. The shield is actually on the game, so they have to have some tie, which I'm kind of surprised by. That usually NFL doesn't allow any of their stuff to be anywhere, but yeah, we'll see. All right.
So yep, we'll be back
in a few.